He's talking about the enemy within Pennsylvania, that he considers anyone who doesn't support him or who will not bend to his will an enemy of our country. He is saying that he would use the military to go after them. We know who he would target, and we know who he would target because he has attacked them before. Journalists whose stories he doesn't like. Election officials who refuse to cheat by filling extra votes and finding extra votes for him. Judges who insist on following the law instead of bending to his will. This is among the reasons I believe so strongly that a second Trump term would be a huge risk for America and dangerous. Donald Trump is increasingly unstable and unhinged.
That was Harris on stage in Erie, Pennsylvania. She did something that we don't normally see her do at her rallies, which is she turned and played sound bites of Trump and his quotes and what he has said previously. And now I want to let you hear the exact quote that she was talking about there. When Trump was asked yesterday morning on Fox News if he thought that there would be chaos on Election Day, he said he wasn't worried about any from his supporters or from bad foreign actors. But then he said this.
I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of Election Day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
He wasn't done, though, with those comments. Then he got specific and named a name that came to mind.
The thing that's tougher to handle are these lunatics that we have inside, like Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff. Total sleazebag is going to become a senator. But I call him the enemy from within.
Congressman Adam Schiff responded to that quote there and wrote on social media, just as he incited a mob to attack the Capitol, he again stokes violence against those who oppose him. And my source tonight is Donald Trump's former Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper. Secretary Esper, thank you for being here. When you hear what Trump is talking about, do you take those comments seriously?
Well, I think we should always take the comments of political leaders and other leaders seriously. Absolutely. He's spoken about this before. If you recall, a year ago or so, he spoke about a second Trump term being about retribution. So, yes, I think we should take those words seriously.
Well, I just think about what you wrote in your book, and that during the George Floyd marches and protests in 2020, he asked about shooting protesters. And as you wrote, you quoted him saying, can't you just shoot them in the legs or something? And so when he's saying that the enemy from within should potentially be handled by the National Guard, and if necessary, the U.S. military, do you fear that he would try to utilize the National Guard, the military, against U.S. citizens?
Yes, I do, of course, because I lived through that. And I saw over the summer of 2020 where President Trump and those around him wanted to use the National Guard in various capacities in cities such as Chicago and Portland and Seattle. And, of course, there was a moment in time, as you just described, where he, on that early date in June, where he wanted to bring in active duty military as well. So that's what equally concerns me about his comment would be the use of the military in these types of things. Now, the good news is I don't believe he has the authority under the law to use the military unless there was some type of civil disobedience or insurrection, in which case that would be use of the Insurrection Act. But otherwise, these other roles that he's described in the past are law enforcement, and that is prescribed under the Posse Comitatus Act, so he would not be able to use it. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but this would be a good discussion to have. But my sense is his inclination is to use the military in these situations, whereas my view is that that's a bad role for the military. It should only be law enforcement taking those actions.
But just to hear a former defense secretary say that they are fearful that the president they served under, the commander-in-chief they served for, would use the U.S. military against U.S. citizens. I mean, you were in that role when he suggested shooting protesters before. Aren't you worried about who could be in that role when he suggests something like that potentially again?
Well, yes, I've said that on many occasions, Caitlin, that my concern is that the last year of the first Trump term will look more like, or the first year of the second Trump term will look more like the last year of the first Trump term. I think President Trump has learned the key is getting people around you who will do your bidding, who will not push back, who will implement what you want to do. And I think he's talked about that. His acolytes have talked about that. I think loyalty will be the first litmus test. So, yes, of course, it concerns me on many levels, not least of which is, the impact it could have on American citizens. It's the impact on the institution of the military, the impact it could have on the professional ethic of our officers and NCOs and soldiers and sailors and airmen. So I'm concerned about all these things, all the impacts on multiple levels.
In Bob Woodward's new book, he quotes someone that you worked with, that you served with, that's retired General Mark Milley, who Trump handpicked to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And he is quoted directly as calling the former president, and I'm quoting Mark Milley now, the most dangerous person to this country and a fascist to the core. You served with Mark Milley. Do you agree with those comments?
Well, look, I have a lot of respect for Mark Milley. He and I are close friends. I understand where that sentiment is coming from. Frankly, I wish he and other four-stars would stay out of the political process. But look, I'm not going to get into that. I've said in the past that I believe Donald Trump is unfit for the presidency. I think for many reasons, beginning with lack of character. Second, the fact that he puts himself before the country and American people, and a few other reasons. So I'm not going to kind of get in the mud. I believe we need to elevate our civil discourse. So I've avoided name calling and things like that and making those types of comparisons. But I've laid out my case as to why I don't think he's fit for the office.
Yeah, and you've said you won't be voting for him this election. Secretary Mark Esper, thank you.